Hi everybody, Peter Greenberg here for Global Cruise Report. I'm now joined by the CEO of Carnival Cruise Lines, Christine Duffy. Christine, it's one thing for a small cruise line to say we're going to stop a few ships. For Carnival to stop operations, it's a gargantuan operation.
I always like to say that we are America's cruise line, and for us not to be able to operate at all from any U.S. home ports until July of 2021 was pretty unimaginable. But unlike the airlines where they can park a plane in the desert and come back later and get it, that's not the case with our business. So while we were not operating with guests, we were operating all of our ships because the ships have to be maintained. So it was a different kind of operation.
But at the same time, during this entire period of time, the airlines didn't stop flying.
No other industry, as far as I'm aware, had to completely shut down their operation except for the cruise industry, and particularly in this country, in the U.S., for as long as we did. We did recycle some of our older ships, and partly given the uncertainty around when we'd be able to start operating again. So the corporation, as you know, sold and recycled a number of ships from across our brands.
If I've learned anything, it's that cruise ship passengers have an emotional attachment to their ships, almost a sense of entitlement, and that still persists.
It is amazing that our Carnival Cruise guests just love the brand. They care about our crew. Throughout the pandemic, when we were unable to operate, guests were in touch with us. They wanted to know how specific crew members were doing. They were in touch with those crew members.
You kept those lines of communication open.
We absolutely supported that. So not having cruising, I think, had a much bigger impact in communities and people that rely on our industry, not just where the ships are, but think about all of the travel advisors and the work that it took to cancel and rebook and cancel and rebook. We canceled nearly 4 million guests from sailings that would have operated in 2020 and 2021.
It's one thing to repatriate the crew. That's a big enough task in and of itself. Then you had to get them vaccinated. Then you had to get them back. You had to bring them back. An equally tough proposition.
Sometimes I think restarting was harder than stopping because, to your point, we were committed to making sure that our crew were able to be vaccinated. And they, I have to say, were so grateful to have the chance because in their home countries they were not able to get vaccines. We also then had to have crew in quarantine after they were vaccinated.
But you also had to find countries that would allow you to vaccinate them.
We did, and for us that was mainly here. So we're grateful the state of Florida provided vaccines. Texas, the University of Texas Medical Division provided vaccines, and we were able to vaccinate people in the terminal.
Don't you find it ironic that the state of Florida provided vaccines for your crew, but will not allow you to require it for your passengers?
Well, there's lots of things I find ironic that have happened over the past 18 months.
Well, let's talk about that one.
I'll leave it at that. Governor DeSantis was very helpful to the industry when we came together in Canaveral to bring CDC and the industry back to the table to talk about what it was going to take for us to be able to restart sailing in the summer. I think there was ultimately recognition that this industry does matter, and it's not just about the cruise lines, it's about all of the people that rely on us and the supply chains and the small businesses and the stevedores and the pilots for the ships, that it's like anything. Sometimes we take for granted, and when something's taken away, you realize just how much it mattered.
Exactly. So what lessons did you learn over the last 18 months that you were actually able to apply?
I think one of the big lessons learned is how important communicating is, even when you don't have anything new to say. In times of crisis, people want to hear from you, even when you don't have something to tell them that is different than what you told them before.
Wait a minute, I have relatives like that.
But it's true. I think people just wanted to hear and know that we were working. We were working to get them back. We were working behind the scenes with regulators, with members of Congress, with our port partners. And I think the other lesson learned is it really wasn't helpful to make decisions before you had to make them. because whatever decision you made,
You had to live with it.
you had not only had to live with it, it was likely that the circumstances were going to be different in a week or maybe the next day. So being patient, and again, in times of crisis, people want leaders to make decisions. Make a decision, be decisive. Well, that's fine, but in a situation like the one we've all lived through, where uncertainty became the new reality and things were changing rapidly, it was better to wait, even as difficult as that was sometimes.
Are there ports that you went to before the pandemic that you're now not going to, or ports before the pandemic that you didn't think about going to that you're suddenly going to?
For Carnival Cruise Line, I would say some people talk about the new normal. I mean, our new normal has been focused on being as normal as possible for our guests, so that we're going to the ports that we know, the experiences and suppliers that we trust in the destinations that we visit. I think the biggest difference is the investments that we've made in technology in our Hub app to enable a lot of things now that you can do on the ship or even when you get off the ship using an app that facilitates activities and communication without people having to queue up in a line.
So basically, you're getting rid of the lines.
We're getting rid of anything that creates convergence that's not necessary, which, nobody wants to wait in line anyway. So if I have an ability where I can order a pizza and a beer and somebody can bring it to me and I can do that from the Hub app, why not?
And now you can.
Now we can. So those are the kind of, we'll say, innovations that I think will be around for the long term.